no driver is invincible, and I think there's still some question marks about some of the things that Max can do. Mate, my feeling with Charles is he's chomping at the bit for a title. You know, he in the same way that Lando needed a Grand Prix win to be able to start realizing his potential, Charles needs a title to get the assumptions that people have about him off his back.
Yeah. Are we gonna now be critical of Singapore 23 or Australia this year?
Whatever you want.
No, we're not
Just
gonna
tell
do
me
that.
why
We're not
George...
gonna do that. So we're gonna be okay with aggression. But I mean, look, you're talking about being aggressive in a title chase. Didn't he have a podium opportunity in Singapore? Potentially a race win there. There you go. They were on the right tire. Not only couldn't he make an impact, he actually threw it in the wall.
Okay, so our top 5 most likely to be able to beat Max in equal machinery.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tired F1 Pod. We're back and we're more tired than ever. Just today I'm very, very tired. How about yourself?
You might be tired. I am ready to roll.
Oh my God, somebody's had a couple of Red Bull cans before doing this. All right, so we are, there you go. We've had a lot of breaking news, haven't we? But it looks like our dear friend Zak Brown has made the waves, huh?
Oh my God. Zak is breaking the internet, and we really need to talk about this because it's brought up a really interesting topic. Can I just play you back some quotes?
Let's do it.
Right. So Zak was talking to the Beyond the Grid podcast straight after Miami. He said this: "As great as Max is, and he's one of the best ever, I don't think Max wins the world championship today in any other car other than the Red Bull." Right? And if you thought that was incendiary enough, he did this. So this is Zak speaking to Autosport. "I do think Lando can beat Max in a straight fight. I think it would be an awesome fight. I think many races would end in tears for one or the other, or both. But I think as far as raw talent can be, I've not seen someone faster than Lando." So I'm just going to quickly tell you my thoughts, but I think it leads to a very, very interesting conversation, right? In terms of Lando beating Max in the RB19 or the RB20, I'm going to knock that one on the head right now. I'm going to say that if everything else being equal, if Lando walks into Red Bull in 2023 and in 2024, Max has been there for just as long. The car is the way it is. The team is set up the way it is. I think Lando gets beaten. I don't think that there's a massive argument to be made that he wouldn't in that scenario, personally. What's more interesting to me, though, is this concept of not the same car, but equal cars. So if you put Lando in an equal car to Max, in the same way that, Lewis and Max had an equal car essentially in 2021, does Lando beat Max? And if we take that a step further, if we do or don't think Lando could beat Max, who else, if the current crop of F1 drivers, could beat Max in an equal car? No driver is invincible, and I think there's still some question marks about some of the things that Max can do. We've talked about it before in another video, which I'm going to love it if you guys go and watch our GOAT video on Max Verstappen.
Don't do it.
It's so much fun. But I still think that we haven't seen Max in a championship challenging position since 2021. And in 2021, there were certain instances where I think his risk-reward calculation was slightly off, in that he went for moves that, even if he didn't get a penalty for them, they put him in a position where he was not able to win a race. Mm-hmm. That maybe he shouldn't have been in that position in the first place, right? Or made errors at critical moments that potentially cost him race wins.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, his qualifying error in Jeddah, for example. So those are little avenues where, because I haven't seen him do it yet, I still think that there's a potential that somebody else might be able to get in there and exploit those slight weaknesses, and nab a championship off him. I don't think it'll be easy by any means, but I think the drivers that we're going to talk about have a potential to fill that gap and nick a championship off him. There you go. That's my question.
Why do we do this thing? Really, why do we do this thing? My first thought when all of this came out, which has not been talked about a whole lot, is Zach, go talk to Lando. So one of my thoughts with the quote really was that Lando actually had the opportunity to make that move and evidently chose not to do so, right? In what now seems like ages ago, he chose to sign an extension with McLaren, which was announced earlier this year. And it would have been nice to kind of see what that would have looked like. I'm not sure that Zach would have loved that happening, right? Because he would have lost Lando. But look, at the end of the day, I expect Zach to say nothing different. You're interviewing him at the end of Miami Grand Prix, where I'm sure he's at an all-time emotional high. B, in some ways, McLaren have already accomplished way more than what they might have set out to do, which is, he has been saying this for a couple of years, that they do not expect to be in a championship fight until maybe 25, maybe even 26. And maybe that's a classic sort of downplay expectations kind of thing. But they've already kind of achieved way more than what we would have expected them to. That's not to say that they won't win more races or they won't be more competitive, but this is a bit of a surprise, and I don't think that they expected to win this particular race in Miami. And had the circumstances been slightly different, they probably wouldn't have. So I would expect nothing less from him. And what else is he going to say? Like, what is he going to say? Like, no, Max is actually.
Ammar, stop being Mr. Sensible. Look, this is about sowing some chaos, man. Let's go, Zach. Yeah, fine. I agree. Zach is hyping up his driver after a win, and I'm sure he's very happy.
Wonder how Oscar feels.
He was very nice about Oscar in the rest of this interview as well. So it's not just about Lando. But look, I already agree with you. I don't think.
No, come on.
I think if you put Lando in the same car, with everything else being equal, he gets beaten. He made the right decision, I think, in not going to Red Bull next year. But that's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking, you put them in equal cars, McLaren suddenly are consistently doing what they did in Miami, race in, race out. Does Lando win a title?
No. Okay. At this moment, you have to say no.
Tell me why.
For a very simple reason, that it is yet to be proven. And until you can prove it to me, I have to keep doubting it, right? And that's not to put a knock on him, but look.
No. You can't do that. That's a cop out, man.
That's not a cop out. I'm being honest. I wouldn't pick him. I would pick.
Okay, but
let's see who I would pick ahead of him. Because just look at the talent we have right now. Okay, it's as simple as that. You'd pick Max, Lewis, no particular order, right? Between the two, right? Yeah. Leclerc, definitely. I mean, because he has shown, he's shown sheer pace over the course of one lap, and he's won quite a few more races, right? Yeah. Then it gets a little bit tricky, right? I'd probably personally put Carlos. We'd probably debate that, but
George?
I think again I wouldn't put George.
Wow, you wouldn't put George Russell in there?
No. I put Oscar ahead of him. I put Oscar because we have seen. Yeah, we have seen that. Okay. So I think there's enough. And look, I'd probably put Alonso there ahead of him. Like we haven't. Yeah. So I think there's at least 5 drivers that I think we can agree on. We can debate the other 2 or 3, but that's the reality. So yeah, if you want to just say 6 to 7, that's fine. But let's be honest. If 5 drivers ahead of him.
Let's put a few of those guys to the test. So I really want to nail this. You don't think Lando currently, if he was in an equal car to Max, would be able to beat him over the course of the season?
No.
I'll be honest with you. I don't disagree. But what are your reasons? Like why?
We've already seen what Max has done to other teammates, right? So
they're not in the same car. They're not in the same car. They're in.
What do you mean they're not in the same car?
They're not. They're in equal cars, but not in the same car.
I mean, look. Okay. This is a hypothetical thing, right? So
Of course it
again,
is.
but I would.
That's
I
the
would
beauty of having a YouTube channel, Ammar.
That's the beauty of having a YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Look, you have to prove it to me. You have to prove it to me over the course of time. And let's be
What does he need to do?
Let's be very honest. The Miami result, slightly fluky, right? Look, safety car comes in at a certain time. He hadn't qualified well. Oscar was doing much better than he was with half the upgrades, right? And we've heard that with all the upgrades, with half the upgrades, he was still pretty competitive and he qualified pretty well, right? So I don't know that we can just go ahead and do that just yet. I'm not gonna give Lando the edge over Max, certainly no, because Max has done it to Lewis as well, right? And they had a very competitive and feisty 21 season that went to the wire. And I don't think that if you are not Lewis Hamilton, if it's someone else, I think that whole year could have looked very different. So I don't think you can just kind of step out here and say, okay, with one race win, good God, we're prisoner of the moment. Go ahead and say what you want, Zak Brown. Let's see how it works out. A couple more races.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably agree. I don't think it's about proving anything. I've got enough evidence really to kind of understand how Lando goes about his racing. I think he's made huge amounts of progress since he came in on the scene in 2019. But he's had 3 teammates now. He's had Carlos, he's had Ricardo, and now he's had Oscar. And I don't think he convincingly got the better of Carlos at all by any means. And I wouldn't put Carlos in that category of if it's a straight fight between him and Max that he would win.
You mean him and Lando?
No.
Well, I mean, we're not.
I know we're not, but it's the caliber of teammate, and I think he wasn't able to get on top of Carlos particularly. I know it was early in his career, but he wasn't able to. And now he's got probably his strongest teammate to date in the same car. And I mean, he's not struggling, but Oscar is showing him where his deficiencies are. And I agree with you. I think Oscar has the higher potential at this point. And Lando kind of has this. I still have that feeling that in the middle of a battle, he's just ever so slightly too polite, and thinks about his percentages too much. And you know that race in Austin last year, case in point, you know, he didn't fight Max, and then afterwards said, "Well, it wasn't my race." Well, actually, Lando, it is your race. You know, even if you think he's going to get past, put your elbows out, man. Have a little fight. Yeah. And there's still a few too many mistakes at key crunch moments. Like the sprint race in China, I thought was a classic moment. He had a really good opportunity to do really well, and he fluffed it in the first corner. And there's a few too many episodes like that, where I don't think he's quite got the maturity yet in a title fight to really take it to the other guy. So I agree with you. I don't think Lando is quite there, despite what Zak has said. But if it's not Lando, you brought up a couple of other contenders. What about Charles?
Yeah, I think that in of the current grid, there's 3 drivers that I think you can put in the same car alongside Max, whether it's at Red Bull or maybe even 2021 a Mercedes, right? It's Lewis, it's Charles, and it's Fernando. That's it. That's it. Because
really? So
they have enough goods. Yeah, I do.
You put Charles in that bracket.
Well,
okay.
In part because of their competitive race history, and I think that I mean, look, everyone has a different trajectory in there. I do genuinely believe that Charles has it. He has all the makings of it. Is he a little bit mistake prone? Yes, he is. But in to be fair to him, they've not quite given him the car that really allows him to be competitive. So I think you just kind of you're trying way too many things, which he does tend to do. If it was a close championship battle, I think that you would see a more sensible, a little bit more calculated Leclerc that wouldn't always be aiming to put the car on pole. Quite the way he did in 2022 and to some extent in 23 as well. And you can kind of see it this year too, right? You can already see with the way the car is being developed And we've talked often about Carlos versus Charles, but clearly, outside of the elusive race win, he seems to have a better overall grip of
But
the race
doesn't
weekend.
Charles keep getting beaten by Carlos? I thought,
Yeah, he does.
Carlos,
He does, which is why I said I would put Carlos in the mix too. But we're talking about
would you put him ahead of Charles?
No, I would not. I would not, because again, I think you kind of made the argument for me, right? Which is that if you want a fast driver or a calculated driver, you really want someone who's fast, and then you can kind of help them be more calculated. You cannot have anyone go fast. Now, I think as a teammate pairing, that's a different debate, which is why I debated you on that. But I think that if you're talking about straight head to head, you want to fight fire with fire. And I think Charles has some of the same fury that Max has. We just haven't had the chance to see it yet. Kind of like when Max was coming on board too, right? In those years leading up to 21, where you could tell that he had the goods, but he would make mistakes. He was a bit aggressive, probably still was in 21. And Charles is kind of showing shades of that in sort of a different area, right? He has, but we've seen him go toe to toe with Max in Bahrain 2022, Saudi, right? Those are pretty awesome races. There are more down the line to Austria too, to a certain extent.
Those are 2 seasons ago, though, now, man. So
yeah, but Ferrari have had to, as we talked about, take a step back. Well, let's see now. Let's see. Maybe this weekend will prove otherwise. Like if we're there, and if Ferrari's there within a tenth, right? I think that can be really competitive. They've solved their tire deg issues. Looks like they seem, again. We talk about equal car, right? So we haven't had the equal car yet.
Yeah, I agree. So is he? But do you not think he's a little bit too passive in terms of strategy and stuff like that?
No, not at all. But I think, again, this is why I think it's a bit of a lopsided argument right now, right? Because Max, we've talked about this. Red Bull has an infrastructure, not just Adrian Newey, but an overall organizational structure and unit that really allows for a car to be as competitive as it can be, and for the drivers to be as successful as they can be.
I think Charles is going to get that. Look, I'm being a bit facetious, because I do agree that I think that over the course of 22, 23, 24, yeah, okay, he was beaten to third in the championship last season by Lewis. But I think if you put the last 3 seasons together, who's the guy that is always there or thereabouts?
Yeah,
it's exactly. Always Charles, isn't it?
It's always Charles.
And I think in terms of consistency, he's the guy that has been most consistently there against Max. And when they've been in equal cars, when he's had a chance to fight, he's not given up that opportunity, right? Every time that Carlos has won a race so far, Max has kind of been out of the picture. But when it's a straight head-to-head between the two drivers, and they've got machinery that allows them to win a race, Charles has put up a good fight. I'm not saying that he's won every time, but he's put up enough of a fight. I think of Bahrain, like you said, in 2022. I think of Austria 2022. Even in Jeddah, where he was beaten, he wasn't
very competitive
conclusion, and he absolutely maximized what his car could do. And those deficiencies that we talk about, the passiveness on the radio, and perhaps even the aggression that takes too much out of his tires. Well, number one, I was never too worried about his tire management, and Japan, I think, really underlined how good he is. And we talk about infrastructure and how comfortable a driver feels within their team, and I agree with you. I think Fred's his mate. Like they've worked together in the junior categories. He was his team principal when he was a Alfa Romeo, not Tauri. You have a sense that the pieces are now being built, certainly this season, to allow Charles to be, the best Charles that he possibly can be. And I think he's starting to revel in it. And that's what I think brings the best out of a driver. When you've got a driver with as much latent potential as Charles has, and the way that he's demonstrated that he has the goods when you give him the opportunity, yes, I would definitely place Charles above Lando. Mate, my feeling with Charles is he's chomping at the bit for a title. He in the same way that Lando needed a Grand Prix win to be able to start realizing his potential, Charles needs a title to get the assumptions that people have about him off his back.
Yeah.
Can I make the case for George because
Oh no.
you've dismissed George straight away, and I don't really understand. But I'll give you my argument why George needs to be in the conversation at least. So, number one, junior categories. So Charles was a rookie F2 winner and did it in a pretty good in a decent field. George is a rookie F3, rookie F2 winner, and he did it in a season where Lando was on the grid, Alex Albon was on the grid, and he still won final race, but he won it in his rookie season. He then goes up against Lewis freaking Hamilton, Sir Lewis, 7-time world champion.
Unnecessary, but okay.
Never unnecessary. It's always worth giving the man his flowers.
Don't say 3-time world champion Max, do you? Okay. I don't know. Maybe you should if that's what it is. Sorry, go ahead.
So he wins. He wins the head-to-head and gets a race win in 2022. Is on par in qualifying really in 2023, and so far this season is ahead in qualifying and the races. Now, whatever you think about Lewis, I don't think beating him in the same car is a mean feat. And my contention is if that was happening and Mercedes had a car capable of winning races, the way George is looked at right now would be very, very different. And if you put him in a title challenging situation, we've already seen how he goes up against Max. He doesn't back down. Sometimes to a fault, but he doesn't back down. And in stark contrast to somebody like Lando, who will just let him through and show him the red carpet, George is very, very aggressive. Isn't that something that you think you need if you're going to go up against Max? Why is that not enough?
Okay, I mean, come on. We cannot take that Brazil win, Sao Paulo win as I mean, that's such a one-off. And look where that win got them to. You could argue that win was potentially more dangerous.
Very correlated argument so far.
Exactly. Well, you can't give them flowers but no blame. You can't do it both ways. Had he not won that race, maybe they would have been in a different position today. They wouldn't have stuck with the dumb concept.
And maybe George would have been a multiple Grand Prix winner by now.
Maybe
if buts and maybes, right?
Fair enough. No. You cannot guarantee that because you cannot say that if they had gone in a different direction, they would automatically be winning. We've already seen proof of that. Ferrari taking it a step back. Red Bull was going to win anyway. But Red Bull was. You think they were going to beat Max?
Stop, mate. This is not an argument about how rubbish Mercedes-Benz are. This is purely about
which is why
George Russell, can he beat Max if they have equal cars?
I was just gonna say that, and to be fair to you, that is not you didn't let me finish. To be fair to you, that is not a reflection on George because he did the best he could with what he was given and he maximized it. And Lewis came second in that race. Is that correct? Right. That's what
he did.
Yeah. So I mean, okay, fair enough. I mean, and there were some team orders there too. So whatever. Okay. I'm just kind of sprinkling
the team orders were let them fight, and he fought and won.
Okay. Are we gonna now be critical of Singapore 23 or Australia this year?
Whatever you want. Just tell me why
we're not
George.
Gonna do that. So we're gonna be okay with aggression. But I mean, look, you're talking about being aggressive in a title chase, and you're kind of seeing proof of that, right? Because didn't he have a podium opportunity in Singapore? I think he was already on the podium, if I'm correct. He was third, right? And he was battling Lando and Carlos. Potentially a race win there. There you go. They were on the right tire. Not only couldn't he make an impact, he actually threw it in the wall. I mean, I don't know what I mean. I should pretty much end there, right? But then you kind of saw something similar happen in your home Grand Prix a few weeks ago, right? I mean, how do you defend that? You tell me how you're going to defend that because to me that's
because Alonso got a penalty for it.
Okay. All right. Well, what about Singapore?
Okay, I would say that anecdotal evidence is the worst form of evidence.
Wait a second. What do you mean anecdotal evidence?
One swallow doth not make a summer, my friend.
Oh my God! Wow, you're gonna hit me with that. Okay, Mr. Shakespeare. That's not. Is it Shakespeare? I have no idea. But whatever. It's. I don't understand how you can say be aggressive, but then now we're gonna never mind. You crashed the car in Singapore. Number two, you screwed Lewis's race too, because if you let him by, maybe he would have had a better chance to kind of get through. So
that to me is a tick in George's favor.
Yeah, great.
That says
fantastic.
I race for myself, man.
Yeah, so you have Sao Paulo win and then didn't let Lewis challenge for the race win in Singapore. Perfect. That couldn't be better than that. I'm not going to hold it back against him. But as I said, I don't put him in the category of drivers that are on a different level. That's all.
Okay, but I need to nail this down. You're telling me that because of one race, because he crashed out in Singapore,
and Australia.
No, I'm sorry, but that does not count. That was a 50-50.
Weren't you the one that argued that Alonso shouldn't have gotten the penalty?
No. I can't remember. I honestly, I can't remember. But,
all right, I'm gonna put that in. Please go
Alonso
to that video.
But Alonso did get a penalty for
Did
that
we say
incident.
That George could have actually slowed down a little bit more or something?
Yeah, sure.
Like that?
So that's why. Okay,
we're just gonna breeze past it. Fine.
There's bits and pieces in every incident, but the Singapore incident, that one I understand because he crashed out under zero pressure. Agree, but are you saying that race on its own is enough to condemn George?
I just want to get something clear. If George is at fault, then there are bits and pieces involved. But if he wins a race, then we're going to just give him credit for it, right? We're not going to give any other circumstances or anything like that.
Well, okay, well, we're not doing it that way. I'm not saying that Brazil 2022 is my only argument. I gave you, he won the head-to-head over the season in 2022. He was on pace in 2023. He was about 800ths faster in qualifying over the course of that season, and in 2024 to date he's ahead in the championship and qualifying. So there's enough there for me to say that against championship winning caliber, the benchmark driver, he has not been shown up. You're giving me one race where
if Max goes to Mercedes in 25 or 26.
Ammar, play the game.
Come on, play the game.
Equal cars.
There you go. Let's see. I mean, you already know where I stand on this. If Max goes to Mercedes in 25, what do you think happens?
I don't think you can call it. I think George gives him. I think George gives him a good run.
Presumably a 4-time, maybe even a 5-time world champion by then.
Yeah, I think George gives him. I think George gives him a good run for his money. If Max is coming to Mercedes, that's the move. Yeah, I think Max needs to watch out. I think George is not easy.
You're gonna let
not only is he not easy.
So you think Mercedes are gonna give him the reported 150 million per year contract or whatever it is? I don't know if it's per year or not. Whatever it is, that to let him play second fiddle to George.
No, I think they do what they always do: let them both race. And I think
really?
in that scenario. Yeah, really. They've never done anything different. They didn't do it when Lewis was fighting Nico, and they haven't done it when Lewis is fighting George. Okay. They've let the two race. But I think in that scenario, if it's Max coming to Mercedes, I think all bets are off, man. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion.
I will be fair to you. I would include him in the group ahead of Lando, but I would not include him in the elite group. I wouldn't include him in. I would only include him in the group against Lando in the sense that they would be on equal footing for me. Like I think it's marginal, the comparisons between the two, and also largely because we haven't seen them in cars that are competitive enough. So there's a little bit of not a little bit. I think you have to leave enough room for like the unknown, which is we just don't know. I guess the question is, would you put Checo in that group or not?
No.
So you would put Checo below Lando and
yes, 100%.
So why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Because he's only losing out to Max. He's been ahead of Lando in every race that he outside of Miami, where of course the safety car timing changed everything, but he was still going to finish last or behind him rather.
With Checo, for me, he's in a different phase of his career. I don't think he showed enough when he was in the midfield that he was going to light the world on fire. He was given the opportunity in a Red Bull, and sure he came into Max's house, but But I think if you put Lando or George or Charles in the Red Bull right now, they outperform Perez versus Max like by miles.
Yeah, but
I
this
think they'd be so much closer to
but
Max in
George is
general.
not finishing ahead of Max. You can argue Charles is, but I can't argue that George is finishing ahead of Max.
I don't think any of those guys going in a Red Bull right now beats Max. Okay, a couple of quick words about a couple of other drivers on the grid. So Oscar, I see him as a future world champion. I think he's on a trajectory to do that. The way he performed in Miami was exemplary. I think he's really starting to show Lando um, how it could be done. I don't think he's quite there yet. I think his performance in China on a new track with an abrasive surface, sort of that question mark about how he manages the delicate Pirellis is still there, but he's only a couple of seasons into his Formula One career, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's already made massive progress on that front. And his one lap pace has been amazing. He's also really calm in battle and knows where the line is. His fight against Carlos, I thought was excellent.
Oh, again with that. So the one thing
it was.
No, it really was. I agree. And we're going to put that debate to bed, because what I want to say is, for all the bluster that Zak Brown has right now, I think it'll be interesting to see if Oscar's learning curve is accelerated, or if he manages to get there, right, in terms of just the experience. And if, as you said, tire management, working in a new circuit, race management, all of the above, right? If he can get into this window where the difference between him and Lando is more or less negligible, I think it'd be interesting to see where Zach places his sort of money, right?
I think he's literally races away from being there.
No, I know. That's why he has the comfort of being able to speak the way he does right now.
I'll be very interested to see what he does in Imola.
Yeah.
I actually, I think if we're putting in a ranking of where these guys sit, I'd have Oscar above Lando. I think I'd have him sort of not too far from George. Yeah. I think those two are pretty equal. Okay, next driver, Lewis.
Yeah, no brainer. No brainer.
No, but he's like 39, man.
Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?
I mean, equal cars today. Does he beat Max in a straight fight? Equal cars, not better car. Equal cars.
He can, because we already have proof of that. Abu Dhabi 21 aside, I think that season could have gone either way. We've already seen that.
Yeah, but things have changed since then, right? So hasn't Max got better? And maybe but in terms of their own ability, has Max not got better? Has Lewis not got worse?
I don't think he's got worse, because Mercedes, we just talked about that's not George and Lewis deserve no blame and for the last 2 years, and they deserve all the credit that they've had, because it literally is that even right now as we're speaking, we're not quite sure what Mercedes is going to turn up with. It could well be that they turn up.
George is beating him in the championship right now.
Whatever.
Lewis is done, isn't he?
It doesn't count. I mean, Fernando is beating Lance Stroll, but do we really give him credit for that? Like in the conversation, that doesn't mean anything. What does that even mean? When you don't have a competitive car and you don't know what the heck it's going to do from one session to another, I don't care about the results. It just doesn't matter, because you're putting the drivers in situations where they're playing with variables. So of course, one of them is going to look better than the other. I, by the way, wouldn't even hold it against George if it were the other way around, because their car is just a mess. So that's it. You can't really.
Do you put him do you put him ahead of Charles?
Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh yes, you have to, because he has already shown us that he can do it, and Charles has shown it. But over Lewis's resume is far more longer and far deeper, right? And again, that 2021 season, we were robbed of kind of enjoying that season as a whole. As a neutral Formula One fan, I might add, I don't support Lewis or Max. I am a Ferrari guy, but as a neutral fan, I felt like I couldn't enjoy the 21 season with the way it ended, and I would have felt the same way had the roles reversed for the drivers. But I think what you saw over the course of that year is you saw two drivers going at it and being super competitive, and I think Max would be a lot more smarter now. I think Lewis would be a lot more smarter, given that he would respond to a more smarter Max, and I think those games would look slightly different. I think it'd be more or less a push, right? You can't really Can't
Yeah,
really
I
say
don't, I
one way or
don't,
another.
yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think Charles has the potential to be able to beat Max over the course of the season,
Yeah,
but with Lewis, it feels like much more
of a given. Yeah,
of a confident
yeah,
call. Like I'm
yeah.
not saying absolutely, I'm
Although,
not saying that at all. And Max has made huge progress. I think you learn more about yourself and about how to manage certain situations when you're not in a title fight than you do when you are in one. Like you don't want to be learning about how to manage a race or how to manage the tires or how to manage strategy in the middle of a title fight. You want to do that when you're not in the middle of a title
yeah,
fight. I think Max is doing that right now. So I think the Max that enters into a title challenge the next time is not the Max that was driving in
yeah.
2021. But Lewis, I think, is also not the same driver that he was in 2021.
Gonna go to a new
And for
team.
all the chat about he's declined, I don't see it. I think he's doing what he always does, which is that he holds things in reserve until there's something proper to fight for. Although in the way he was fighting in Miami, some of them, like, I still think he pulled off the move of the race against Yuki. It was brilliant, and that shows he's still got it and he still has the
Oh
motivation
yeah,
to
yeah,
get the
yeah.
best result.
I mean,
And I think if you put him, um, if you ask the question of him versus asking the same question of Charles, he is desperate for that eighth title. But unlike Charles, he has the experience to know how to do it
so
and hasn't lost anything, I think, in being able to do it when the opportunity arises. So yeah, I have no
I
doubt that Lewis is up there.
I would agree with you and add this too, right? The pain of losing is far greater than the joy of winning, and I don't think that pain has gone, right? And for someone
Nah.
that has won as much as as he has, and the pride that he has in being excellent, not just over the course of a race or a season, but decades now, right? Like, and you can say that, right? It's been done over decades. I think that you're going to see. So there's no question of motivation, right? I think the only question that you can ask is he's going to go to a new team next year, and so whatever challenges come with adapting to a new environment, a new car, a new team, all of the above, even with having the comfort of having known Fred Vasseur and the two McLaren colleagues that will come over in Jerome D'Ambrosio and then Loic Serra. I think there's still going to be a little bit of an adjustment, and Ferrari is not like any other outfit on the grid. Like, so there is going to be that growing pain. But I also think it's just a matter of time, right? So then I think the
Yeah.
question is, does Charles maximize during that window or not?
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Final driver, Fernando.
El Plan. Yeah, I mean, again, look, I think it's kind of like with Lewis, right? If you have someone as motivated as he is, if you see, and you can see his racecraft too, right? We've seen it time and time again. I think again, I go back to Sao Paulo and his move on Checo, right? And there have been many examples since then too. I think he's got the goods, and I think he would do it. So I think you have to give benefit of doubt to the incumbent, such that he hasn't won in 2 decades now, but still, there seems to be no reason why you would doubt him. And he's Fernando. Why would you doubt him anyway?
Uh,
Oh,
above,
come on.
below, or the same as Lewis?
Below Lewis.
Why?
Depth of resume. That's it.
Depth of resume.
Yeah.
Okay, above the same or below Charles?
Below Charles.
Below Charles. So okay. Interesting.
What do you think?
I think he has more tools in his locker than just how he performs on track to
Yeah.
destabilize somebody else's world
So
championship.
I would just also say that it's hard for me to imagine in an equal car because I just don't think of Aston in the same way, right? So for me to make that leap I can see Mercedes making that leap. I can see Ferrari making that leap. I can see McLaren making that leap to being in the same vicinity as the Red Bull. But I think I don't know the Aston, and we're going to go in a different
Okay,
direction. I don't want to go there, but
okay.
so
This is turning into a slightly dull argument because I'm going to agree with you again.
no,
I can't help it. It's true. I'm not sure. I can definitely say above. I can definitely say that Fernando is above. You said below Charles, didn't you? I can't say that he's below Charles. I think that's a tough one to call. And the arch disruptor that he is, I think would even give Lewis a bit of a run for his money. I just think and this is vibes more than anything else, right? Because I don't have definitive data for this, given the teammates that he's been up against. I, I think there's still a slight question mark about his ultimate qualifying pace. And I think that is where Fernando might run into a bit of trouble over the course of a season, that he might not qualify his car in the region that he needs to be able to consistently outpace Max. And that's the only caveat I have about Fernando. In the races, I think he's second to none. I think his brain is just so switched on.
Absolutely.
And he would create opportunities when there maybe aren't any. And I've never, people will talk about how determined Lewis is. I don't think I've ever met or seen a driver as tenacious as Fernando Alonso. I think that's the word for him. If there's a sniff of an opportunity to win a race, any race, he'll win that race. Just look at his performances in his championship winning seasons. Imola 2005, unbelievable. And if you want to look a bit later than that, 2007 Nürburgring, go watch that race. He had no business winning that race, but he overhauled a decent lead by Felipe Massa when the rain came, knocked past him at a corner that he shouldn't have been able to pass at, and then walked away. Absolutely walked away. That was an epic win. Fernando has those performances in his locker. Again, just look at Brazil last year. He got overtaken by a faster Red Bull and got him back again.
Yeah.
Don't count him out. Okay, I want to try and summarize this. Okay, so Zak Brown has said what he said, but in equal cars, I'm going to ask you the question again, and then we're going to rank them all. Okay, so can Charles beat Max?
Yes.
In an equal car? Yes. Can Lewis beat Max in an equal car? Yes. Can Fernando beat Max in an equal car?
Yes.
Okay. Can Lando beat Max in an equal car?
No.
Can Oscar beat Max in an equal car?
Nope.
Can George beat Max in an equal car?
Not yet. No.
Yikes. Okay.
What's yours?
I would say that I agree with those. I think George is 50-50 though. I don't know. I think George actually potentially has the goods to do it. Can we rank them? Okay, so our top 5 most likely to be able to beat Max in equal machinery in May 2024. Right? I'm going to put in number 5, Oscar. You're going to put in
number 5, Lando.
Oof.
I love you, Zach.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Yeah. I'm going to put in there. Go on, you're going to put in Oscar. I'm going to put in there G. Russell Esquire.
Oof. Oh, yeah.
Fight me.
Oh, my God.
Fight me, commenters.
There's no bias, anything like that. Anyway.
So
coming in hot at number 3 for me is El Plan, Fernando.
Yeah. I think he gets the lowest step of the podium for me as well.
Coming in at number 2 is your guy, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
I'm going to put in Charles there. I think Charles second.
All right. And so then I have at number 1, Charles. I think that all of the elements are right, and I think I would add that it's just a pick 'em between him and Lewis, but I think Charles ready.
I think Lewis, just because the motivation is definitely there, but he also has experience on his side. What other people call age and decline, I call grey-haired experience.
Oh, excellent! And on that wonderful note, please leave us a note, a comment. Maybe share us your top 5 drivers that could beat Max in equal machinery, and we'll find a way to put it in a nice email and ship it off to Zach. And he can keep it for his records. But thanks for watching. Please do subscribe, comment. We read every comment. Most comments get a response. Appreciate your love and support, and enjoy Imola.